Hey guys, we're back with the next episode of Sryth, our online fantasy text-based RPG. Last time we were continuing on with Proving Grounds 5 just because I'm a completist and I don't like to leave stuff undone. So as you can see, we got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more things to do, scenarios to finish here, so I'm gonna keep going with that. So hey, thanks so much for joining me and hanging out, and let's get to it. I can get my mouse area ready here, so yeah, okay. Alright, a light in the dark. Begin. I'm not gonna recap. We found the body of Halan, so we're worried about her. And when we last left Halan and Rinduel and the Driscar and all them, they were getting attacked by our other Silvercrest members, so Sryth. No, Sryth is the one who was helping me get the Eye of Arngor, or whatever it's called. Eye of Arngor, yeah, that's it. So now I'm back from that. When I left to get that, they were under attack, and now we found the body of Halan, so let's go. Immediately drop to Halan's side, eager to determine if she is indeed dead. Your fingers have bravely brushed against the fabric of her robe when the lantern on the table suddenly sputters out, leaving you in total darkness. Swift footsteps and a rush of air, the only one you get of an impeding attack. You sprint to your feet and spin to your left as a tall, shadowy figure rushes at you out of the gloom. Preceding your unknown assailant is the end of his heavy iron rod as it strikes towards your head. You nimbly dodge the well-aimed blow and leap back out of the range of any of the follow-up attack. Thankful to have avoided what could have been a fatal strike, you turn to face your shadowy assailant. Now standing several yards away across the darkened cellar. The lantern on the table flares to life, casting its wide pool of yellow light across the stone floor of the cellar. The tall, shadowy figure lurking just at the edge of the light grumbles something that you can't make out. Suddenly, much to your horror, a group of long shadows slither out from under the table and writhe about wildly before your unknown enemy. Your foe again grumbles something, and the long arms of the shadow surge across the floor towards you. Shadow magic! Calling upon your mastery of the shadow magic, you're able to quell the writhing shadows summoned by your unknown foe. The arms of shadow slowly retreat into the deeper gloom and disappear. The lantern sputters and goes out, and the inky blackness instantly fills the cellar, leaving you with little notion of the location of your unknown foe. The cellar is suddenly fully illuminated as from out of the darkness hurtles a broad bolt of lightning. Behind the deadly blast of energy that strikes towards you stands a shadowy figure's arm outstretched in your direction. Fortification! The lightning bolt smashes into a hastily erected invisible barrier and deflects into the wall of your left, where it leaves a deep gouge in the stone. With little doubt the direct hit would have instantly killed you. With no desire to give your shadowy foe a chance to unleash a second lightning attack, you leap forward to engage it. Leap forward! The lantern on the table flares to life again, and the shadowy figure steps forward. You prepare yourself to meet a terrifying gaze of Trail Talk, but your heart skips a beat when the face of Rinduel appears at the edge of the lamp's flickering glow. You cry out to Rinduel, praying that the darkness of the cellar he has mistaken you for an enemy, but he sneers in response and curses at you. It's been long enough with you, he growls, brandishing a long iron rod in his hand with spectacular skill. There is no use in keeping up this game. You fight against a power you cannot fathom. His word is now the only one I heed, for deep and endless is his wisdom. His way is now the only path I follow, for it will lead us from these shadows. Your heart sinks as your mind races. It's clear that Rinduel is now under the mind control of either a Madraxa or one of the dragon's wicked minions. For the first time since this dark affair took form, a shadow of despair creeps into your thoughts. A strange, although pleasant, sensation suddenly washes over you. You feel momentary light-headed, ghostly, greenish glow suddenly stabs through the gloom around you. I think I'm supposed to use the eye. Gripping the eye of Arngor firmly in your right hand, you thrust the sparkling emerald out toward Rinduel, and the emerald glows faintly in Rinduel's eyes wide in terror. A strange sensation surges through you as the eye's magic goes to work, vying for supremacy against the dark spell that is firmly root in its target's mind. Rinduel, his eyes wide and his lips drawn into a snarl, raises up his iron rod and he prepares to land a mighty blow upon you. The eye of Arngor shimmers brilliantly, casting a bright green light over Rinduel. He drops his iron rod as his hand springs to his face in an attempt to shield his eyes from the glow. He slumps to his knees and gasps. Only a moment later, when the light fades, he slowly lowers his hands and looks up to you. No longer are his eyes wild and leering or his mouth drawn. into a snarl, instead spreading, rapidly consuming his pale countenance as a look of anguish and horror. The black spell that held sway over him is broken. Woohoo! Rendell staggers to his feet and rushes to Halan's side. By my hand, she does not move. By the All-Father's grace, may she have life, he cries, and he kneels down next to her. What have I done, Alison? Amazed at the power of the eye of Arngor, and the immediate effect it had on Rendell, whose mind was clearly under control of Madrax, or one of his agents, resolved to keep the gem close at hand. He realized only too well that the need for his power is likely to take form, perhaps sooner than you might hope. Rendell raises his grimy, tear-streaked face and sighs heavily. It is a sigh of relief in his sleeve of darkness that surrounds her, seem slightly less terrifying. She yet lives, he says, gently turning her over. Her eyes are closed, and you note that her breathing is shallow. She will live, she must. I swear my wretched life she will. Quickly ask him about the others. Herika, Atriska, Priyan, and Trailtalk. Rendell turns to you, but before the words can leave his lips, his eyes are drawn to the slight move to your right. It proves to be a now all too familiar, fear-evoking sight. The long shadow slithers off the wall and melts into a pool of gloom, out of which swiftly rises a tall, wild-haired, menacing figure of Trailtalk, the man who Halan himself called the most dangerous man you ever met. He reaches behind you and drags the lifeless body of Herika into the light. He hurls the corpse to the side and stands glaring at you. You reach for the eye, hoping to turn its power against the most fearsome of Drax's minions, but the gem is snarled from you by hands of shadow swept into the far corner of the cellar. It will take more than trickery to survive me, he says. Fret not over this miserable wench, lured near, as she will soon show in your face your fool snip at the feet of the gods. Even the All-Father may one day feel what the master has become. Rendell leapt to his feet, retrieves the long iron rod. He glances quickly at you and then returns his gaze to the man he once trusted with his life, a man who beyond all doubt he now wished were dead 1,000 times. I'll tend to you here and now, growls Rendell. You grow too bold, old friend, and I would have thought such blasphemy beyond even your sucking morals, but I now see plainly there is but one cure for the wickedness that grips you. And then, with anger welling up inside you, you leap forward and stand at Rendell's side, a hard gaze fixed on Trailtalk. Both of you at once, grins Trailtalk, his hand sliding his hood. It hardly matters, I'm scarcely able to tell you rats apart. That's it. While Halan's alive, Herika is dead. Shame. Shame. The eyes of death. Oh no, he took the eye from me. Rendell's voice echoes clearly in your mind. Alison, make forward. His voice disappears and is replaced by Romilly's sinister voice of Trailtalk. As a betrayer, I've forgotten that the prey he now settles his eyes upon is not some meek goblin or mindless troll. Let us lend at least some dignity to the end of 2 rats. Rendell leaps forward, his rod poised to strike Trailtalk, but he's suddenly tossed backward by powerful, invisible force and hurls the wall behind him. Trailtalk grins wickedly as he watches Rendell writhe about in agony in the base of the wall. How quickly all the bravado is tempered. He steers, lowering his cold gaze to meet you defiant glare. Attack. So shall the sorry apprentice follow his humble master? Which the other sword is ready to himself to face your attack. Archery. With a blinding speed, you draw your bow and notch an arrow, taking aim at Trailtalk before he has a chance to react to a swift act. A feathered shaft protrudes his lower torso around the edge of which seeps a wide stream of blood. With an agonized grunt, he tears free of the shaft and hurls it aside as his wound begins to rapidly heal. Wasting no time to leap forward, striking Trailtalk with a pair of devastating blows before he had the chance to recover from the previous attack. Still reeling, Trailtalk struggles to mount a counter-strike in the face of your unrelenting assault. That's right, it's unrelenting. Death to the heathen. Trailtalk staggers and drops to the cellar floor. Much to your horror, he slowly rises to his feet as wounds within his body begin to rapidly heal. Now you join the rest of that miserable rabble you kept with, he says coldly. Suddenly a series of faint whispers pass through your mind. You struggle to make out the words, but you're certain the voice is that of Halan. A thin shadow slithers down from your shoulder along your arm and loops itself around your wrist. And it writes, the fingers of your right hand involuntarily close around something solid, takes form in your palm, the shadow slides off your wrist and melts into the gloom, the shadow fades into silence. The pulse quickens when you realize a cold, hard object now tugged with your clenched hand, delivered by a slithering shadow, is the eye of Angor. A faint greenish glow seeps through your fingers as you tighten your grip of the sizable gem. Trail Talk strides forward, his gaze fixed on your closed hand around the hilt of your sword. Fixes on you as his. I mean, we gotta use the eye again, right? What else we gonna use? Your fingers grip tightly, you thrust the eye on Garrow toward Trail Top. The surface of the emerald shimmers brightly as a faint greenish glow wells up within the heart of the gem. A brilliant ray of green light washes over Trail Top, and the hard, cool expression on his face seems to soften the effect is lost, however, when a swirling black portal suddenly opens against the far wall. Two shadowy figures step out of the portal and stride toward Trail Top. Your heart races when the shadowy figures step into the pale light, revealing the faces of Adriska and Priyan. Their cold expressions mirror that the look of that was swiftly returned to Trail Top's face. Adriska steps towards you and scowls. Perhaps you ought to let me deal with this one, Mrs. Coldy. I long wished to be rid of this runt. Trail Top flashes an angry look at Adriska, causing him to immediately shoot back and stand next to Priyan. He then orders the pair to remove Hurricane's body from the cell and return it to the master. You may return for rest, including this runt. If the master so wishes, grumbles Trail Top. There may be enough left for this one, though. Both Adriska and Priyan seem to detest being ordered about, but it is obvious they did not balk at the command. Begrudgingly obeying Trail Top's order, Adriska and Priyan have Hurricane's lifeless body off the cellar floor and carry it back to the portal within. The swirling vortex closes behind them with barely a whisper. Trail Top steps toward you, his face twisting in a hideous sneer, as thin tines of lightning appear and encase his hand. Suddenly, his sneer vanishes, replaced by a placid, almost docile expression. This look swiftly returns, however, and he begins stepping threateningly in your direction. Again, use it again! His enraged voice now echoing through your mind as the cynical voice of Trail Talk. Okay. The eye of Aaron Angor shimmers brightly in a brave wave of bright green light surges forth from the heart of the gym. Light flares brilliantly as it washes over Trail Talk. His eyes close tightly and he collapses on the cellar floor. The light swiftly fades and you cautiously step forward and peer down at Trail Talk. His eyes flicker and slowly creep open, revealing bright blue pools now surrounded by coarse, unshaven face that you would even dare to call kindly in appearance. Long, thick locks of grey hair spill down off his head, reaching to just below his broad shoulders. A faint smile begins to form on his quivering lips when he suddenly closes and his body goes limp. You're about to take hold of his wrist and check for signs of life when you catch sight of two shadowy figures rapidly closing in on you and the gloom on your right. It's going fast. Alright, the 4. Leaping to your feet, you turn to face the dark shapes now looming into view out of the loom on your right. You shrink back in horror sight that confronts you. Two tall robed skeleton figures float out of the shadows, their lifeless hands tightly gripping the hilts of glimmering longswords. A bright red glow suddenly pours forth out of their hollow eye sockets, bathing you in an eerie luminance. Without warning, a strange sensation causes your head to swim. It is almost unmistakable sensation of a powerful psionic attack tearing into your psyche. Come on, you got it. You're able to resist and repel the powerful attack on your psyche. Thankful to have survived the assault, you draw yourself into a defensive stance and prepare to engage a pair of robed undead. Two robed undead skeletons advance upon you, floating across the cellar floor, their swords poised to cut you down. Whispers fill your head, and the icy psychic fingers tear the edge of your psyche. Second floats forward, its glowing red as blaze, it strikes you with its long sword. The second row skeleton shrieks loudly as it collapses into a pile of bone at your feet. Once you're dismayed, two more shadowy shapes loom out of the darkness. Jace! You exhale sharply and feel a great weight lift off your shoulders and deep shadow depart from your heart. As the familiar faces of Rindle and Halan come into view out of the shadows, both of them seem weak, and they stumble more than once as they move up to you and gaze down upon the remains of the undead. Overjoyed, you step forward and help steady them to their feet. Suddenly, the pile of bones both and cloth at your feet bubbles and hissing begins to rapidly dissolve. Madrasha leaves few traces of his handiwork to be found, said Rindle. Stalkers, said Alon, leering with the contempt of the dissolving remains of the rogue skeletons at your feet, one more powerful than the witness of the dragon's minions. A ploy of desperation, perhaps, and a bit of bad fortune for us. More of them will come, issued a low but firm voice from out of gloom. You turn to see a tall, broad showed the figure of Sryth emerged from the shadows. There's no time to delay. We must wonder why it is we heed the words of a traitor, hisses Rindelwell, regarding Sryth with an icy glare. Your mind may have been twisted by the dragon's powers, but your heart turned murderous and your soul black before his first whisper slipped into your ear. Sryth glances at you and shakes his head before returning to gaze at Rindelwell. The old room's to lake, near. But I can only say you must allow me the chance to. Halan interrupts him with a pointed inquiry. And why did you not kill me? He asked, his gaze following Sryth. Why did you allow the two of us to live? What of Hirkir? Was he not worthy of your mercy? Were it mine to give, he would have been, replies Sryth. There were other purposes for the rest of you, though you would not wish to know them. You would certainly have cursed my mercy and readily begged for death, that there be no end of Adriskir and Priyan, interrupts Rindelwell. Lost? Perhaps forever, regrettably, unless the eye still possess the power to turn them. I feel that, with my undoing, much of its potency was consumed. Then we will at least try, said Rindelwell. We owe them that, if there's nothing else at all. Dress will be loath to see them again. So Sryth shook his head. He now knows all that has transpired here, and though he will move against us, will not be with. Early, as if in an answer to Sryth's word, the crack of energy fills the cellar in dozens, running back portals open the walls surrounding you. Rindelwell shouts the order, and the four of you fall into the center room, pressing your backs together as you wait with bated breath for what will come through the inky gates. As your eyes scour the spinning vortex for any sign of the arrival of the enemy, you can't help but feel that, in the face of what appears to be imminent danger, that you are in good and capable company. What emerges from the portal immediately drives the cold comfort of sentiment out of your mind. Loud and vile hissing echoes off the wall, and a dozen of glowing eye-robed skeletons floats out of the portals and flood into the cellar. Behind the wall, a sword-wielding undead now surge towards you. Their massive hulking frames hardly able to fit through the vortexes from which they emerge in step 6 towering ogres. You stare in revulsion at the hideous beasts whose broad, sullen faces are dominated by a single wide eye. Heavy black plates of armor clank as the fearsome behemoths stomp across the cellar. Suddenly the voice of Sryth echoes in your mind. Protect the eye. The four of you are separate, spreading yourself out across the breadth of the cellar as you prepare to face the enemy onslaught. For some reason, the attack scene since from Sryth is quickly engaged by a large number of stalkers to the the ogres. For you, which is the A, you spot a pair of stalkers soaring towards you from the left. Ahead, just now, emerging from the room is one of the massive ogres, his lone eye fixed square on you. Hold ground. They seem more dangerous because they can do mind attacks. The ghastly shriek of a slain stalker echoes through the cellar as the horrifying creature slumps to the ground at your feet. Like the others, the stalker's corpse quickly pin dissolve in the bubbling pool. Within only a few moments, nothing remains of the undead terror. A brilliant red glow illuminates the cellar as an arc of fire streaks forth from Halan's outstretched hand, and tears tears through the chest of a one-eyed ogre before her, and the massive leaf drops from the seas and pitches forward, striking the floor face first. The ogre's corpse rapidly vanishes beneath the rippled pool of shadow. You suddenly realize that none of the enemy remain in the cellar. The four of you survive the assault without warning. All the portals lightning close, all save one. Stand together in the middle of the cellar, and the four of you intently watch the lone portal that remains open. Rindelwell exhales sharply as a thin shadow slithers out of the swirling gate and briefly broadens. A strange feeling washes over, and you can feel icy fingers prying at your psyche, but the sensation quickly departs and the shadow retreats. The portal trails out, takes a step forward, but Rindelwell places his hand on his shoulder and he stops. The shadow disappears to the impenetrable inky vortex, and the portal closes. You've done enough to arouse the beast's curiosity, said Rindelwell, looking sideways. You realize the growing horror of the thin shadow that just retreated into the portal was Madrax himself. His best laid plans are still afoot, though he's been dealt a serious blow with the loss of his most potent minion. Sryth returns Rindelwell's glance with a gare, but the expression quickly dissolves into a wry smile. Most potent, high praise indeed, he says. Though I would rather no longer see me as one of his subjects. You not see me as a friend, Luidnir, and I will not ask, but for the sake of the road that lies before us, let all that keep for now. There is no time for any of this, said Alon, glancing over at you, and then back to Sryth and Rindelwell. 100 more ogres and stalkers come our way next if we linger. Without question, agrees Rindelwell. The next move in this game must be ours, and it must be made with haste, and let it begin with this, said Sryth, turning to you with his upturned hand outstretched. Give me the eye. Nah? I'm not giving you the eye. Unnerved by Trail Talk's sudden and bold request, you quickly withdraw the eye and assume the fence is dead. You got this hand and you grasp the door and the shadow passes by. His arm swiftly extends and takes hold of the large emerald, wrenching it from your grasp. The shadow begins rapidly withdrawn now with five Ongoros. Girl, why you hold on to it? Just in the midst of its gloom. Call upon your master of shadow magic. A pair of shadowy arms extending the cellar wall on your right and slither forward, taking hold of the eye as it's drawn toward Trail Talk. Trail Talk glares as he intensifies his effort. The command of the shadow proves to be matched for his own formidable powers. That's right! I'm cool like that. The eye reverses course and is deposited into your outstretched hand by the shadow you summon. What happened? I thought I got it. The eye of Angor suddenly shatters into 4 fragments of equal size with the fall of the cellar floor. That falls to the cellar floor. Each of the emerald shards continues to glow faintly. Trail Talk steps and picks up the pieces of the eye and hands one to each of you. There now we will roll on, he says, casting aside with glance of renewal. They are obviously less powerful than the whole eye. It's not quite unlikely the whole eye should fall into undesirable hands. Despite the initial horror evoked by Trail Talk's brash action, you realize immediately the benefit of breaking the eye into shards. It will not be difficult for the enemy to set hold of the artifact, and each of you will have the ability to wield its power even though its potency has been reduced. The eye will likely prove useful against the dragon's minions, said Renewal, but the serpent itself is not threatened by it. Nonetheless, it is wise to divide it. Keep it in your hand. Trail Talk replies to Renewal's comment with a suggestion directed at his one-time comrade. Is it the bold suggestion? It is a bold suggestion that the League of Five were directly responsible for turning Drax into something far more sinister than any mere dragon could ever aspire to be. It's not by design, mind you, said Trail Talk, meeting Renewal's hard gaze with a cold stare. We were all driven by what we felt was a public cause, but we served to introduce desperation to his brewing malevolence. It is desperation that caused him to seek out other paths, to seek out other allies, from places far moved from the lonely cave wherein he watched his only kin gasp the dying deaths at the feet of the human slayers. You provide excuses for the beast? Growls Halan, her glare frozen on Trail Talk. His assessment is valid, says Renduel, whose words seem to startle Halan. He's about to speak again when Trail Talk suddenly continues. You do not know the dragon as I do, said Trail Talk flatly. Nor would I dare say you would ever wish to. He is no longer a creature of only this world, that I am certain. His power and ambition is beyond what any being in this world could ever aspire to. His wickedness transcends the lustful revenge he's harbored these long centuries. The demon thrives within him, there can be no doubt. There's an underscore for demon. Ichthion. Ichthion is the name of a powerful demon lord in the netherrealm realm of Onyxus. His second great age was named after the demon lord, the Age of Ichthion, for it is marked by Ichthion's attempt to invade and conquer the world. Ichthion is said to rule the 7 great demon lords that inhabit the netherrealm realm of Onyxus. Wow. So he's part Ichthion? A lengthy silence follows Trail Talk. Word. As whether what he said settles uneasily upon all present. You had not before considered the possibility that Trail Talk has brought to light, but the very idea that it might prove true is terrifying. Renewal sighs as if his own long-standing fears have at last been confirmed. Halan mutters something. Trail Talk says that it may be possible to use the eye of Madrax himself, and lessen or remove the hold that some greater instinct may have in him, at the very least perhaps making him somewhat less fearsome foe. It does nothing to change our goal, said Renewal. Whether or not a greater power has a hand in this affair must not sway our course. We must attempt to use the eye against Madraxa, but we certainly cannot lay our hopes on it. Trail Talk and Halan both nod. It is agreed that a showdown with Madraxa himself is not only likely, but the only possible outcome to the series of events that was set in motion 6 centuries ago. Rindle is quick to say that he fears such a confrontation, but not for the more immediate reasons. The four of us standing here are the best and perhaps only hope the world has of being rid of this terror, he says gravely. Should a confrontation with the dragon turn tragic, what hope is there for all who remain following our passing? This confrontation we must seek out on our own terms, and we must avail ourselves of every advantage we can. We cannot play into his wicked game. Still so haughty, remarks Trailtalk, avoiding Rindel's burning glance. There will always be others, my old friend. You cannot possibly think that we are the last bastion of hope across the entire breadth of humanity, can you? The best chance lies here and now with us, that is true. But to say that it is the only chance is very thinking that begets rash judgments and irrevocable folly. Perhaps you've grown tired of the game, Luidnir, but please recall that I have only just rediscovered it. Rindle does his best to ignore Trailtalk's comments and says that the fight must not be taken Simmerdrax, even though it is of course a thing we must surely expect. Alon raises a hand and a bright light fills the cellar, chasing much of the gloom far into the corners. Trailtalk nods, apparently approving of the tactic and speaks. You and I will be his first marks, says Trailtalk. His eyes fix on Rindle. It is for that reason that we must divide ourselves, and the reason I shatter the eye. There are two important tasks at hand. A calling upon the beast at sea that he still resides in his boat shall be mine. We are Trailtalk and the other important task is, but it is Rindle who answers. Alon and I will pay a visit to Telenus and slip into the citadel. He says that it's difficult to tell, but I feel we may have already forced Madrax's hand. We do not need a crown of shadow perched on the head of our beloved king before this business reaches its end. Our king's beloved, huh? Allison must go with me to Pithstan, says Trailtalk resolutely. That is the beast's haunt and the place where we will likely have to confront him. We dare not move against him without the two of you, but we will discover ourselves what may await us there. Trailtalk explained mostly for your benefit. The Pithstan is a village in the midst of the forest known as Brotherwood, in the northwest corner of the kingdom. It is there you learn that Madraxa has long occupied an ancient temple on the edge of the bog known as Tubar Quag. The village is remote enough not to attract attention, explains Trailtalk, and its citizenry is cleverly disguised to appear as they did when they were still among the living 600 years ago. Madrax's insidious powers long ago took hold of the place and its inhabitants, and now, perhaps forever, his faithful servants, and one or of his most powerful ties to the realm of men. The old haunt is alive again, mutters Rindle. A fool is all that I have been to this point. How could I have ignored it? It is a perfect setting for an silent invasion, one that is likely already afoot, and perhaps has been for years. Our delay may have already been too great. Trailtalk shakes his head. Was it you, Luidnir, or Master Nirith, who used to be fond of saying it is never too late? Regardless of who it was, there's a truth in that sentiment, but we dare not tarry. We shall leave at once. Can I? Okay, never mind. Rindle steps forward to initiate a shoulder cross with you. In the moment he withdraws his hand, Alam moves over and follows suit. And I wish you luck as well, says Rindle, turning to Trailtalk. The lad nods, but makes no audible attempt to return the sentiment. Take care, Allison, said Alan. I'm certain we'll be seeing each other quite soon. When our task is complete, we will come to Pithstan, said Rindle. I remind you, both of you, all of you, that whatever occurs, Driscoll and Priyan can no longer be seen as allies. They're tools of the dragon. Will be using against us whatever cruel fashion best fits us in. There are also deadly foes from whom I will expect and give no quarter. I would advise the rest of you to do the same. The crack of energy fills the cellar as two portals open simultaneously. Rindle and Halan step toward the swirling vortex on the right, while you and Trailtalk move to one on the left. Without further words, and with very little idea of what lies in store beyond the cellar of the candle glowing, you follow Trailtalk into the pool. Everything goes black. Can't believe they trust Trailtalk enough for me to go with them. Like, aren't we friends, you guys? Your head swim as you tumble through the impenetrable darkness within the portal. You cannot see Trailtalk, but just when your nerves have begun to assail your reason, you're suddenly standing on the solid ground, in tall grass of a wide field, at the edge of a pine forest, beneath the dull grey afternoon sky. The faint crackle, the portal behind you closes. Brotherwood, says Trailtalk, standing at your side, his hand motioning into the forest in front of you. Do there lies Pithstan. There's a road through it just over there that we'll take, but first there are some necessary preparations. Trailtalk closes his eyes, waves both of his hands in a circular motion as a pair of shadows slither off a nearby tree and swarm about the two of you. In only a few seconds you're completely enveloped by the writhing gloom. Okay. Transformation that's taking place is remarkable. Your faces remain physically unchanged, the shadows are now inconspicuously lining do much to make them unrecognizable. Your tires also been changed. The gloom that cloaks you serves to disguise your garb in the likeness of commoners attire. Even the dragon's gaze won't pierce these shadows, said Sryth confidently. When now look like any of his other minions who inhabit the village. The trick would be not to announce our true identities in some unforeseen way. Too much caution on our part will prove our undoing. But Sryth, how long will these guys remain in place? As you're fearful of what might be their sudden and perhaps untimely departure long enough. Yes, as you start along the overgrown wood road leading toward Sryth. We will soon reveal ourselves, but it will be on our own terms and at time of our choosing. A few scattered ramshackle wooden buildings and overgrown fields at the side of the road signal your arrival on the outskirts of Sryth. Continue cautiously along the road, hopeful that your newly donned disguises will keep you safe from unwanted attention. The disguises are put to their first test as you turn a sharp corner on the road. Two men clad in leather armor, apparently members of the village minister, are standing guard in the middle of the lane. Upon seeing you, they step forward smiling, but they regard the two of you with critical, almost piercing stares. Your heart skips a beat as suddenly the fashion and wealthy of their faces melt away, revealing decayed, worm-ridden skin stretched tightly across sunken, emaciated countenance. As quickly as the horrific sight appeared, it vanishes, leaving you once again facing the smiling man. I haven't seen you two up this way before, said one of the men, eyeing you curiously. What have you got to say for your business up in these parts? I see fingers prone to the edges of your psyche. You immediately realize the two men attempted to read your thoughts. Sryth stands quietly aside, apparently not wishing to intervene or further arouse their already heightened suspicions. Your bravado works. Regards, stepping out the two of you to continue along the road toward the village. Can't be too careful in these parts, smiles one of them as you move past. No hard feelings, I hope. And welcome to Sryth. Thanks. Around the guys with those friendly faces like the cinder product of 6 centuries of dragon's cruel domination, says Sryth as the two men move along the road toward the heart of the village. None who dwell here are truly human any longer, Allison. They are all shadow minions, faithful servants of Madraxan, even if unwillingly so. We are in great danger here if our identities are discovered, though it's doubtful I need to have informed you of that. If you were going to, you should have did so before we showed up here. The village of Sryth is a sight that evokes both pity and lingering sense of dread. The buildings and dwellings that make up the heart of the settlement long ago fell into ruin and disrepair, but the sinister move about the broad thoroughfare that runs to the center of town please take little notice. There is dead as this village is and has been as long centuries, says Sryth as the two of you move along the edge of the road towards those stone buildings. Place in these people are only shadows of what once was. I'm afraid that is the true power of magic revealed that is on its way here. It is ruinous, Allison, utterly ruinous. As you draw near to the crumbling stone building, you can see thin trails of smoke rising through the largely collapsed roof. The festive sound of mandolin soars out of the open doorway, but in the best attempt at the gloom that hangs heavily over all that you surveyed. I'm stopping here, said Sryth, not in any direction. It was obviously a tavern. I'll go in first and you can follow behind, but not at my back. What does that mean, not at my back? You enter the tavern with Sryth carefully to allow a small group of villagers to step between you as you pass over the threshold, hoping a slight separation will help to buy you anonymity among the patrons. The tavern's main room is crowded and noisy. On your right, before the roaring fire, sits a stout-bearded man strumming on a mandolin. A dozen patrons seated around the hearth join him in a jovial ballad that's unknown to you. Taking less than a dozen steps across your room, your eyes are drawn to a slender, gold-faced, hooded man sitting alone at the table in the corner. The man's eyes are fixed on you. After only a few moments, you rise and begin moving in your direction. The throng of patients pass in front of you temporarily, obscuring your view of the man, and when they pass by, you are shocked to discover he is no longer anywhere to be seen. Suddenly someone nudges your elbow and you turn to find Sryth standing at your side, holding a flag and frothing ale. You better ways to fit in, he remarks as he sips his own flag, and I've seen what I've come in to see, for good or ill. When we had our drinks, we'll go. What have you seen? When you finish your ale, Sryth motions towards the door and two of you slowly make your way out of the tavern. If everything's dead, what is this ale made of? Once outside, you move along the thoroughfare in the west, and Sryth speaks in an earnest but hushed tone. I don't suppose you've ever known a dragon play the mandolin, says, glancing at you, gauge your reactions, and as the meaning of his words sink in you, filled with the whole realization the bearded mandolin player was none other than Madrax himself. I wish to see if the beast was still home, he says, his tone grave. The minstrel, the drunkard, the lone rider, the woodsman, the friendly face in the street, Those are some of his favorite guises. He actually envies humanity, it's perhaps for these very reasons he hates it so. Deep sense of dread wells up with you as the low rasping voice echoes in your head. The wide-eyed look of Trail Talk face immediate comfort. Worries that he's also hearing it. A wayward son and a fresh fool is the voice when you realize the voice of Madrax himself. Your treaded glory in eternity for wrath and misery. I have no further use for you, either of you. The voice fades with its absence and does little to improve your situation. The sense of dread remains as you turn around and your eyes take in the scene of the thoroughfare behind you. The source of fear is made plain. A mob of at least 100 villagers is gathered in the middle of the thoroughfare. The cold gaze of every last man and woman is fixed on you and Trail Talk. Each of the villagers is holding some sort of weapon. Foremost is a large group is the bearded man, who Trail Talk identified as Madraxan. His mandolin now slung over his shoulder, his face adorned with a smiling and jovial grin. Bring me only their heads, he says, a smile in direct contrast to the stout weakness of his words. They are worth no more than that. The bearded man bowed, step back into the crowd as the mob begins to advance along the thoroughfare, shouting wildly and waving their weapons in the air. Trail Talk glances at you, curses under his breath, and draws his sword. At his next takes you utterly by surprise. A broad pool of shadows swiftly forms as Trail Talk speaks and rapidly envelopes. He cries out in surprise as he's rapidly consumed by the dense gloom. Within just a few moments, the shadows retreat, leaving no trace of Trail Talk behind. In wake of the strange attack on Trail Talk, you feel somehow drained. Not time to dwell on Trail Talk's face, your mind races, your eyes fall once upon a mob of villagers now advancing upon you along the thoroughfare. Turn to retreat along the roads, the last of the villagers give chase, and soon find yourself at a spot where the wide stone bridge spans in a rushing stream. Rushing in space, a second mob of villagers advancing from the opposite side of the bridge. Realizing that fight is impossible, you certainly hold your ground, muttering a quick prayer, and let your breath as a few fresh members of the vicious mob comes in. Axe-wielding villagers. You dodge and mount a counterattack of their sharpened blades, cutting the air. And we get to see the rotting horrors in the thin human shell. Gross. Attack! Can't even catch my breath. Okay, blacksmith. Sword-wielding villager. 3 armed villagers. Well, they're dead already, so we're just saving them. Village militia. Cup wielding. Sword wielding. Congo welding. Axe wielding. Yes. Melee swordsman. As 5 of the members of the village mob fall back from the bridge in apparent attempt to regroup, realizing that the reprieve is only temporary, rush across the stone span toward the forest west of the village. Not entirely certain about where you're headed, but mindful of the symbol that Trail Talk made mention of. Suddenly, now all too familiar sight greets you, halting your dash on the road. A pair of shadows slither out from the base of the tree and line the road and form a black pool of gloom less than 5 yards in front of you. 2 dark shapes rapidly rise at the puddle of shadow and take form there. The shapes of Drisket and Priyan. In a matter of moments, 2 men are completely risen and standing for you in the middle of the road, their gold faces fixed squarely upon you. The 2 former allies say nothing but instead produce long iron rods, tips of which are entwined with lightning. Drisket throws a rod about in an unnerving display of skill and steps forward, a cruel grin slowly spreading across his face. You step back and draw yourself into a defensive posture, not eager to have engaged your fellow members of the Silvercrest, but also not willing to become a victim of Madrax's newest minions. Suddenly, the crack of energy fills the air, and swirling black vortex opens on your right, sensibly washes over you. Renderal and long left from the portal takes positions on either side of you. They both glance at you before fixing the hiding gaze on the Drisket and Priyan. It is all for naught, growls Priyan, stepping forward so that he is shoulder to shoulder with the Drisket. The mustache Trail Talk in his clutches, and even now he's remembering his obedience. Weakness stirs in the hall of the king, echoes the voice of Renderal in your mind. It is more than even the shards of eye can continue. We must reach the temple. Allison is now our only. Deafening roar and a loud hiss fills the air as wide arcs of lightning leap into the tips of your foe's iron rods. Renderal spreads his fingers as if to summon magic, and Helen does the same. Oh, I'm going to end the episode there. We got a few more. We got 5 more at least to go to finish the Silver Quest, so I hope it's going to be cool ending. Although it's devastating that we can't save our fellow Silver Crest. Thanks so much for hanging out and watching with me. And watching me read and play. I'm going to say peace.